Cathy, how long has the Comeback Inn been in business, and how did it come into being?
Well, in November it'll be 20 years that it's been the Comeback Inn. And Mark Wagner, the previous owner with his wife Gina, he actually grew up in Chicago, around the corner from a little place called the Comeback Inn that was exactly like this from his stories, from the wood paneling to the excellent food that came out of their little kitchen.
So that's how it all began. So they, obviously they were both from out of town, and so this building has quite a history, and I know that I guess they were lucky to just come across this place, right? And that it fit the mode and the mood of what they wanted to do and whatnot?
It did. When he saw this building, he said he knew that it was perfect. For many years this building was owned by Jim Gravett, and it was Jim's Tavern. Mm. And a lot of people, know this as Jim's Tavern. And anybody that grew up in Germantown knew of Jim's Tavern. So it's kind of like that local place that has a little bit of celebrity in it with Jim. And then when Mark came over, his bigger than life personality, of course, just brought, a new breath of fresh air into the building.
Now, you worked for Mark and Gina for a number of years, and then you bought the place. How did that happen? How did it work out that I knew that they had a plan to retire at a certain time in their life, and you worked for them, and did you approach them about buying it, or did they approach you?
Well, it was always, from the time I walked through the door, I just kind of felt like I was at home. From the customers that came in here, my co-workers, Mark and Gina, it just felt like home. And we would talk through the years that I was going to buy it when they retired, because I wasn't going to let it go. And it just came around to where time kind of happened a lot faster than what we think happens, and it was time for them to retire. And I just thank God for family and friends that I was able to secure the place and keep it the same.
So how long did you work for them before you bought the place?
About 10 years.
Oh, goodness.
I worked as a server and I did prep for them.
And you've had the place 5 years now?
It'll be 5 years, yes.
So you've spent a good portion of your life at the Comeback Inn.
Yes.
That's what it comes down to.
Yes.
Well, let me ask you this, and you haven't really changed anything. When you took it over, you really didn't change anything, did you?
Oh, we kept the same chefs we have. We kept the same wait staff we had. The bartender, of course, changed. I had to hire a new server. The only thing I can say that I've really changed is I've had a lot more emphasis on bourbon. I've purchased a lot more bourbon. People are now with the bourbon trail. They're asking more about bourbons. So we have more bourbon on the shelf than we had 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm. And do you find that there's more requests for bourbons?
Yes, yes.
And does that seem to be increasing with all the publicity of the Bourbon Trail, the history of bourbon? I mean, its popularity is worldwide.
Yes, yes, of course. People are just more educated about bourbon. It's not that backwoods Kentucky, moonshine, so to say, anymore. It's actually come out on the forefront, and I think that bourbon's finally getting the recognition it needs.
Well, speaking of bourbon, this bar that you have here, I'm guessing that how long is I've checked up a little bit of the history of the place, and the bar was not an original part of it. When was the bar installed?
This back bar was brought here in 1964 by Jim Gravett. It actually was in a restaurant that was at 3rd and Guthrie called Kolb's, and it was a beer and oyster shack. And they were open from 1836 until about 1945. Then the bar was it was in a storage unit, pretty much.
This bar dates back to 1836.
1836,
My
yes.
goodness.
Yes. All the way down to they had to make amends for, Prohibition.
Oh,
So it actually has its own little hiding spots where, I guess back before Prohibition, they would hide gold or guns or whatever, money.
What are you keeping?
But during, nothing.
Oh.
Nothing, just all my deep, dark secrets.
Okay. Well, I promise I'll never look in there. Great.